talk about the movie that you were most surprised by, and most people didn't see, or it didn't do well at the box office, but it's a movie that people really should go out and see.
Yeah, there's a movie that came out this last year called Chronicle, which I think it did okay at the box office, and it did okay on DVD, but I really think, you know, especially for the target market that this was aimed at, you know, for the same type of people that would like something like The Dark Knight Rises or The Avengers or something like that, I really think that a lot of the audience that it was meant for didn't find it. It's a found footage movie, which in the past I've had my issues with that means of storytelling. I don't always think that found footage is a very effective way to do a narrative because it's jarring and there's a lot of jump cuts and there's, you know, a lot of shaky camera work.
Right.
But I think, you know, the voyeuristic nature of it, it feels like you're not intruding on these characters. It feels like you're almost kind of watching over their shoulders as things happen. And the director, Josh Trank, uses it really effectively to tell the story. And you could tell, you know, that he had budget limitations and there were certain things that he had to kind of cut back on. And he uses the found footage device to tell the story in a really good way that, you know, I think kind of probably saved a lot of money for the studio in the way they did it.
Right.
And it's basically centered about three characters, Andrew, Matt, and Steve. And the three characters, they're at a high school party, and they hear some, you know, big thump rumble in the distance, and they leave the house and go out into the woods to see what's going on. And they find a mysterious object in a cave underground, and they realize a couple of days later that they have telekinetic powers, that they have superpowers. And as they kind of develop these superpowers, these three friends that are kind of an unlikely trio. You know, there's Andrew, who's kind of like a loner, who's by himself a lot of the time, who always has his video camera with him recording everything, and kind of views the world through that lens because he's kind of, you know, shy and doesn't want people looking at him really. And then there's his really kind of cool alpha dog cousin Matt, who's really popular and good with the ladies, and he's an athlete, and then Matt's buddy Steve, who's again another athlete, another cool guy. And the three of them become incredibly bonded over this thing that they have that kind of nobody else could possibly understand.
It's their shared secret, yeah.
Right. And they develop these powers and they test them out in kind of funny ways. They make a teddy bear walk and talk to scare a little girl at a toy store just to make themselves laugh. You know, they do funny little things like that. And then as the story continues, as it goes into kind of like the second act, like the middle third of the movie, you see Andrew's home life and you see kind of what a difficult life he lives. His dad is really abusive and angry. He's an alcoholic, and then his mom is dying of a terminal illness.
Right.
And the pressures of this are really starting to weigh on Andrew, and his escapism is spending time with his two friends and, you know, kind of, you know, toying with these powers. You know, they're throwing baseballs at each other's faces and stopping them at the very last second with their minds and doing things like that. And that's his escape from what is an increasingly crumbling and sad life that he has at home. And, you know, as his life at home gets darker and darker, you see Andrew starting to get darker.
Right, and that's one of the things, and this is where the movie sort of kicks it up a notch for me, is that that third act, as you say, like, that the seduction of the power that he has in a powerless situation in the home life that he currently has, and it starts to take him to very dark places as a result of that. Where the other two guys, they don't come from that same situation. Yeah. They live a happy, carefree, you know, normal teenage life, and so Andrew's descent into his darkness really transforms the three of them too as a result.
Yeah, and you can see that the other two have a hard time understanding Andrew. They see him kind of slipping away from them, and they're not really sure what to do. They don't understand how to make him feel better. They don't understand how to put boundaries around him that'll keep him from doing things that are dangerous and that could hurt other people. And as Andrew starts to slip and you see their relationship kind of change in a way that the other two really don't understand, the movie gets really, really interesting as you see Andrew get darker and darker, and you see, like I said, that's when I think the found footage element of the movie really helps. There's a scene where you kind of are almost watching the camera as it looks over Andrew's shoulder as he uses his mind to kill a spider.
Right.
And it's not just that he kills a spider, it's that you see him toy with it for a second, and that you see him make the conscious decision at that very moment to end its life, and you see the look in his eyes, and you kind of see this darkness in his eyes. And I believe the actor's name is Dane DeHaan, who plays Andrew.
Right.
And he does a great job of showing this kid who goes from being bullied and being weak and being unpopular and feeling like a loser to somebody who, as he starts to get stronger and stronger, you know, really feels like now that he's powerful and strong, that it's his responsibility to punish people. And it's really an interesting change, and you don't see the change happen to the other two characters because just as you said, their situation is so different.
Right.
And, you know, I don't want to ruin the ending for anybody, but it really takes some interesting turns as it goes through the last third of the movie, and it was a really interesting and satisfying conclusion where in a lot of circumstances like this, kind of a lower budget movie, they're not able to wrap the film up in the way that they want to because of budget constraints or things like that. But again, Josh Trank, the director of this, does a great job of tying the movie together, creating a really big last few sequences, you know, and I think it's a really, really good movie. I don't think it was one of the 5 or 10 best movies of the year, but I think it was the type of movie that if you see it, you'll see the promise and you'll see the potential in everybody that worked on it, and you'll go, man, I hope I see more from these people in the future. They were really, really good.